Hello and welcome to Center Stage, where the lights are shining brightly today on Demi Moon. She is a new administrator in the Sioux Falls School District. We'll be learning about how she traveled the road to get to us here in Sioux Falls. I'm DeeAnn Konrad, the Community Relations Supervisor, and we thank you for joining us on Center Stage. So Demi, welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. I know this is something you've been looking forward to.
Definitely.
Not really. But we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
It's great to have a perspective from someone who's new to the Sioux Falls School District. You just joined us in the fall of 2016. Yes. Tell us a little bit about Demi Moon.
Well, I came to Sioux Falls, began on July 1st this year as the Director of Federal Programs and Assessment and Program Evaluation. And prior to being in Sioux Falls, I was the high school principal in Huron for the last 5 years. The 3 years before that, I was the assistant principal in Huron. And prior to that, in my educational background in Huron, I was 8 years in the classroom as a high school math teacher.
Of course you were. Math, assessment, that all seems to...
Federal programs, working with money, it's all in that package.
Sure.
Prior to returning to Huron, which is my hometown, I spent 3 years teaching in Arlington, South Dakota, which is where I started my career right out of college.
Okay.
So that's kind of my backwards path to how I got here professionally.
And you're a jackrabbit also, right?
I am a jackrabbit, yes. I am a jackrabbit.
Don't stop watching if you're a USD fan. Sorry, we just have to share on that.
Well, currently I am in my educational specialist program at USD, so I do like to spread the love.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yes. Wonderful. So math, that sort of led you on your path here. Was math always easy for you in school, or where did the love of math come from?
Well, yes, math has always been something that has come pretty easy to me. And I always liked the fact that it had a concrete answer.
It does?
So
because I'm still looking for that answer.
Still looking for X, are you?
Right, I am. And Y.
Yeah. So in high school, I took advanced math classes, and part of it was just the fact that I loved the subject, but the other part of it is I had a really good math teacher who I had the fortune of growing through high school with her as she changed the classes that she taught. So I had her for the majority of my high school career. And when I left high school, I actually started my SDSU experience as a pharmacy major and decided that chemistry wasn't as much of a love as math. And so I switched my major, and I think I broke my parents' heart when I told them that I was going into teaching, because they were very aware of the salaries and the
hard work,
yeah, and how draining that it can be at times. But I think what they failed to understand, because I don't have any education in my family history. There's nobody that's a teacher or anything like that. So I don't think they quite understood the rewards that would come with it. And so that's kind of where I started with math. And I really like curriculum. And I like assessment, obviously. So when I decided to pursue my master's degree, I decided to explore the avenue of curriculum and instruction rather than administration. And I had determined I was never going to be a principal, and that wasn't really anything I wanted to do, or so I thought.
Little did you know,
Little
right?
did I know. And so I got my master's degree in curriculum and instruction with a technology specialist. I did help Huron navigate through 2 different one-to-one initiatives on 2 different platforms. So that is another huge interest, is how to integrate technology into instruction. And then when I had the opportunity to apply for the assistant principal position in Huron, I had a little bit more schooling to go back and get a few more classes so that I could have that administration certification. And so now I'm in my specialist, and when I'm done with that, I plan to just continue on until I have that doctorate so that I can be done.
Always a lifelong learner.
Always a lifelong learner. Done with degrees, I guess, at least. Probably not done with learning.
No, exactly. So obviously as assistant principal, high school principal, and now an administrator with assessment and such, that's a big job, a lot to juggle, but you have a family as well. You're not just only juggling your work, you have family as well. Tell us about them.
My husband and I met at SDSU, where we were both RAs, and that kind of brought us together. And we got married shortly after we both graduated from college. And now, flash forward a few years, and we have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. 3 of our children play hockey very competitively, and so that's kind of another thing that attracted us to the Sioux Falls area, was the hockey opportunities for my children. And then I have, my youngest daughter does gymnastics, and so that was another attraction to the Sioux Falls area, with the opportunities for them to get involved in things that they truly do love. And so they range in ages from, my baby is a 3rd grader, I have a 5th grader, and then my son is at Roosevelt as a 9th grader, and then my oldest is a senior in high school.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
you've across the gamut.
Yes.
You have
yes.
one in every
level. Yes.
So that definitely has to keep you hopping.
It does,
as well.
yes, yes. And that is one of the things I do enjoy about the change from being a principal to the district administration. While the work is definitely not easier, and like you said, that with the different assignments on my position, I do have a lot of things to juggle that don't always go together, so I'm kind of switching hats back and forth throughout my work day. But I don't have that high school supervision like I did when I was a principal, and so it does allow me to have a little bit more consistent, uninterrupted mom time in the evenings and on the weekends, and I've really kind of enjoyed returning to that role of being a mom again.
I think that just means, with kids your kids' age, and really my kids' age as well, it just means we're a chauffeur.
Yes, I was just going to say, it means I get to live in the car consistently.
You're constantly going from point A
Yes.
to point B, and nowhere in between is anywhere that you would like to go.
Correct. And yes, and so when you drop them off an hour early for a hockey game, there's very rarely anything for me to do, close by. So
Right.
I spend a lot of time sitting and reading in hockey rinks and visiting with other parents, and just hockey's taken us a lot of really interesting places. We've gone on a lot of really cool trips. My children often ask why we don't ever take vacations, and I remind them we take plenty of vacations. They're just not to cool places like Disney World. We just go to hockey rinks.
And they're cold. Hockey
And they're
rinks
cold.
That's not
Yes. In the summer, it's nice.
Yeah, I suppose it probably would be. Very cool. Well, that hockey, as you said, is kind of your life. What's life like outside? What other hobbies and things do you enjoy?
That's a really good question, and when my youngest graduates, I might be able to
You'll let me know.
My husband finds time for plenty of hobbies. He very much enjoys the outdoors and hunts and fishes quite a bit. And, I really just enjoy the peace and quiet of being home, and
There is beauty in silence.
there is.
That's
There
what
is.
I
It's so
always
rare that when it happens, I really just like to be home and take it all in and just get a handle on what's coming up next. And
Right. Look ahead instead of always trying to keep your head above water.
Right,
for sure.
right. With college classes and 4 children, and we also host a student from one of my son's teammates from another community who's living here in Sioux Falls for the hockey season, and so I actually have 4 plus 1 right now. So it's busy, but I love it. I wouldn't want it any other way. My mom is constantly telling me I should probably say no to my children or not let them be in everything they want to be in, but it's our life, and that's
who you are.
That's who we are, and it's what we know.
Yeah, very good. Well, tell us a little bit about some of the work that you're doing in Sioux Falls, and I think there's first day on the job, we probably just threw you in and said, hey, we need this, we need this, we need this. Tell us about some of the work that you're doing and the outcome, or what we hope the outcome will be on some of these long-term projects.
Okay. Well, I did kind of jump in feet first, but I'm very fortunate to still have Ann Smith, who was in my position before me, and she's just next door. So I have a huge resource in her, which has been nice as I try to navigate my way through this. With the federal program side, that means I manage all of our federal grants, and any grant that anybody applies for in the district, those make sure they hit my desk, and we make sure that we don't have multiple people competing for the same grants and that kind of thing. And if we do, that they're not going to beat each other out and those type of things. So working with the Department of Education quite a bit and making sure that I learn all the can-dos and can't-dos for staying in compliance with spending federal money, and then all of the reporting and data collection that comes with that also. So
that in itself is
it's
huge
a beast.
task.
Yes,
and,
yeah, it is.
Budget and being able to spend this money on that, but you can't spend it on this, and
Right.
just a lot of rules.
There are a lot of rules, and also making sure you don't overspend by a penny, but they aren't very happy if you don't spend it all either. So making sure that we try to find ways that really do get to student learning and the best way to spend our money for the best results for our children in the Sioux Falls School District. That's a daily task. With that, I blend in the Director of Assessment position, which means that any of the district designed assessments, any of the state mandated assessments, any choice assessments that we choose to participate in as a district run through the office that I supervise, and I have a great staff on that side of things as well. I'm kind of blessed because I get to have one of my staffs at one of our administrative buildings and one of them at the other, so I get to go back and forth between the two and meet additional people that I might not otherwise get to know quite so well. But that has also been a little bit of a new learning curve as well. But one that I've really enjoyed and really fits in with my curriculum background that I first started exploring, in administration through that. Right now, I would say on the assessment side, one of our biggest projects is we are piloting the MAP assessment in 5th grade, and that has been new for teachers, new for administrators, and definitely new for parents. I have a few people that I know in the community who have children in 5th grade, and the feedback that I've gotten so far has been extremely positive, but just that it's new.
Curiosity about what is this and why are we doing this?
Right,
and that kind of thing.
oh my gosh, the information that we get in the report, as parents and how much is there. And so that has been fun to help the district pilot that as we consider moving forward, like you said, with our budgets coming up as we start to prepare for next year, whether or not we're going to be able to expand that to grades K through 5 and really have that data accessible to the elementary, maybe even K through 8 as we move forward, so that we can make good decisions about where students should be placed, where their deficits are, so we can fill in those gaps before they become huge cracks in their learning, and cause them problems later on. And so that has been my work and my challenge on that side. Otherwise, our assessment department has a lot of experience, and they're very well versed at what they do and do an outstanding job. So they're an easy department to lead.
That is, when you talk about assessment, there's always people like, why do the kids have to spend so much time, taking these tests and that type of thing? And when we talk about it, I think as a parent, I might not understand it either, but because I have the privilege of working with people like you and others in the district, you do start to understand that it does inform instruction. That's what we want our assessments to do. What does that mean when we say, assessments inform instruction?
I guess to give you just a really scaled down version as a classroom teacher, if I have data, and with this MAP assessment we get data 3 times a year, the kids test 3 times a year, so teachers really get a good idea coming in at the beginning of the year, where are my new 24 students that I have in my classroom all day long, all year long, where are they at in the areas of math and reading and language, and so they can get a good understanding of their skills and abilities. And then a midway assessment in January, and then again at the end of the year to see if we've really gotten the job done. But as a teacher, if I'm looking at those results and I look at my lesson plans and I look at the content standards that we have to follow because the state of South Dakota has adopted them, and we have curriculum guides as a district that we have adopted, and so as I look at those and I'm planning, I can take into account where are my students at in terms of these standards that I'm addressing, and what are some things I'm going to have to hit a little bit harder, what are some things that I'm going to have to maybe reteach that I wasn't planning on reteaching, but the data shows that without these foundational skills, it's going to be difficult for me to get to the new standards.
To move to the next.
Right. And what are some things that these kids know already, and so what can I not spend so much time on? And so really using that data to know how to spend your time as a teacher on what's needed and what's important and maybe what's not needed as heavily is really a basic bare bones approach. There's lots of other things along the way as well. The student achievement data can tell us a lot about how students are going to perform if they don't make any changes in their academic growth between now and maybe when they take the ACT. And so we can do a lot of predicting with student data And if students aren't happy with where that prediction is leading, they still have time to intervene and maybe take some different classes in areas that they're a little bit weaker as they get through middle school and lower high school grades, and try to intervene on their own learning.
It really is, some parents may understand this. I'm not sure that I did until I, again, became involved in the school district and had children of my own. But how much goes in. It's not that the teachers are teaching or using the same lesson plan that they used 10 years ago or last year even.
Right.
These assessments are helping us perfect or adjust the teaching and the lesson plan so that the students in that particular area, like every student, the teacher knows where they're at on the continuum, and it's not just, oh, well, it doesn't really matter where you are on the continuum. This is my lesson plan and this is what I'm going to teach. It's not like that at all.
No, I would say that's very accurate. A lot of times people think of assessment as sticking the thermometer in and telling you what the temperature is and then let's move on, but that's not really what we use that temperature reading for. It is a thermometer, it does tell us, it does give us an idea of where the students are at, but it's not an end result most of the time. Some of our assessments that we have to give are more summative in nature. They're a screenshot or a snapshot of where is that student at that point.
Particular day.
And by the time I get the results, I may not even have those students anymore, but at least I know where they were at the end of the year. But a great deal of the assessments that we give in a student's year or day in a school is used for molding the curriculum, molding the instruction, and using it to help them, move forward. It's not just an end result.
That is a constant then.
Yes.
Change, and requires that teachers be flexible in their teaching and what they're doing in terms of their lesson plans and such. And so we do have the support of instructional coaches that have seen best practice and have ideas about how to help teachers change and that type of thing. I feel like that's been a good opportunity to provide our teachers with professional development, which isn't just on those in-service days they can come and learn, but there are constantly people supporting them as they change and allowing them to try new things, figure out what works for student learning.
And get some instant feedback. Those instructional coaches are in the classroom, they're observing. Teachers don't know if something's working or not working. Sometimes it's good to have a second set of professional eyes on what you're doing and get some instant real-time feedback. And that, like you said, that professional development is embedded in their daily routine rather than a sit and get once a month or once every other month for a couple of hours. And the whole time you're sitting there, you're thinking about what you need to be doing back in the classroom and those kind of things. And so having that professional development and that opportunity for growth just intertwined and embedded in your daily routine, it has to be a better way of doing that. And the overlap between assessment and instruction is growing throughout our district and growing with our professional development, and it's kind of an exciting time. It's an exciting thing to watch grow.
Absolutely. Well, I think early on, one of the first times you and I had the opportunity to talk, I'm always interested in perceptions from people who are new to Sioux Falls and new to the Sioux Falls School District, because I think we become familiar with the way things are done. What impressions do you have of Sioux Falls, or if you were stepping back outside of Sioux Falls again, what do we look like in terms of, since you've had experience in other school districts, how is Sioux Falls doing?
Well, that's kind of an easy one. I get a lot of practice. I still have a lot of connections with the staff that I supervised back in Huron, and they ask a lot, so how are things different in Sioux Falls? And they are different, but yet they are the same. We're still in the state of South Dakota. We're still under the South Dakota Department of Ed guidelines, and so we're still operating under the same set of rules and regulations, as you would in any other school. But every school takes on the personality of the community that they are located in. And as far as the community goes, we love living in Sioux Falls. We love the opportunity. We love the size. We love the things that our kids have the chance to do. We love the variety of restaurants that we have, and so it's just a lot of cultural and cultural opportunity in the community. So that part of it has been absolutely wonderful. Obviously with Huron being my hometown where I grew up and then returned for several years, I miss things about it. I miss people. But that's been a good change. As far as the school district, I guess coming in, I didn't really have a lot of preconceived notions or expectations. I really didn't quite know a lot about the district. I'd met people. I'd had a little bit of insight, here and there through interview and preparation opportunities. But I really didn't have any prior expectations. And so that has been nice. Everybody has been so kind and so professional, so willing to help. It's just a lot of people to meet and try to remember faces and names. And I'm one new person, but there are 30,000 new people for me to get to know and meet. And I have a couple former students teaching in the district, so that's nice to have a couple familiar faces. Two of my teachers that I supervised last year in Huron that taught for me at the high school are now teaching in the Sioux Falls School District.
Really?
So that's kind of nice that a few people came with me or got here before me.
They couldn't do without you.
They couldn't. So it's nice to walk into a training every once in a while and see a familiar face and have somebody to connect with and that kind of thing. But my kids say wonderful things about the school. They got comfortable in their setting very quickly. They were very nervous, as most kids are when they move to a new school and don't know anyone. But they've made friends, and our house is a revolving door at times, which is fun. That's nice too.
For that to happen just a couple of months after moving here, that's pretty awesome.
It is. We moved from the country to in town, so that's been a huge cultural adjustment for my children too. The idea of having friends just houses away is something they've really gotten used to quite quickly.
Which probably means you need to have a pantry full of snacks and things like that, and there's always
and
multitudes of shoes right at the front
door.
That
is one of the first times I came into the house after we closed on our house here in Sioux Falls. That was one of the things I took a picture of right away, was the 7 or 8 pairs of shoes right inside the door, and that's something to get used to. But a GPS tracker is a pretty good idea too, because sometimes you don't know where they are either. So locating them when it's time to get in the car and go somewhere is handy too.
Yeah, for sure. So anything that surprised you about the Sioux Falls School District, if there was, if there was anything that surprised you?
I guess during the summer when school wasn't in session and so there weren't a lot of teachers to meet, I really, as professional as everything was and when you don't have the opportunity to talk to people about things, you start to think, well, okay, things are pretty well oiled and running pretty smoothly. And so probably the biggest surprise was teachers in Sioux Falls struggle with the same thing that teachers in Arlington or teachers in Huron struggle with. You have the same issues, you have the same struggles, but with a different face and maybe a different culture group. The diversity here is great, but the diversity in Huron was great also, but they're different culture groups. And so it's learning to take what you know about school and what's best for students and adjusting it to the community and to the personality of the student body and of the teachers for that matter too. So
Again, it's like you're a teacher and you have to shift
every year.
It just goes right along with that.
Yes, it does.
So we're coming up on the end of our time, but I do have to ask, Demi is not a common name.
No.
And the real, it's Demetria?
Yes, it's short for Demetria.
Okay. And so how did your parents land on that?
My dad was in the Navy.
Okay.
And his roommate on the ship out at sea on one of his trips, his wife's name was Demetria, and my dad fell in love with the name. And when I was born, my parents decided to call me Demi, but they didn't spell it like I spell it now. And so they spelled it Demmy, which was a early childhood set of opportunities to make fun of me by switching one letter. And so when I started middle school,
what could that
be? And so when I started middle school, I decided I was going to take that opportunity away from people, and I changed the spelling of my name to Demi, which that helped quite a bit. But it is, I get a lot of, like Demi Moore, and and lately like Demi Lovato, which means I know I'm growing older and times are changing. So
Demi who?
Yeah, exactly. The first time I heard that, I was like, well, that's new. That's different.
I haven't heard that one before.
But yes, that's where it came from.
Okay.
And my mom just went along with it.
Well, And do you have siblings that have unique names
No,
as well?
no, not at all. They're very traditional. Anthony.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tony.
Yep.
Demi. All
Yep.
right. Well, that works. Well,
Kelly. Yes.
certainly. I mean, it's you see your name and it's a little intimidating
Oh.
when you see Demetria Moon.
Yes.
Like, wow.
It's good to know.
It's very. It sounds very rich and just like star quality.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll remember that.
I'm in awe. So, well, it's been fun to have this
Thanks.
conversation and learn more about your path to the Sioux Falls School District. Our goal in this program is to just help our community learn about the professionalism and the skills and ability and the excellence that we have leading the school district. So we're glad that you're part of us now.
Thank you.
And obviously you still have part of your heart back in Huron, but we're glad to have you here and working with our students and our faculty to improve the Sioux Falls School District.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us today on Center Stage.